History tells us a fairy tale about the Industrial Revolution. We are told that in the mid-1700s, humanity suddenly woke up. We went from farming with wooden plows to building massive steel factories in a single lifetime. But look closer at the timeline. It is mathematically impossible. To build a steam engine, you need high-grade steel. To get high-grade steel, you need blast furnaces that require massive amounts of mined coal. To move that coal, you need heavy trains. To build trains, you need the steam engine. It is a closed loop. A paradox. You cannot jump from a horseshoe to a locomotive without intermediate steps. Yet, history books show no steps. The factories simply appear in the 1700s, fully formed and massive. Look at the engravings. The people are small, wearing rags, standing confused next to gigantic machines. They don't look like inventors. They look like scavengers who stumbled upon a lost technology they didn't understand. Let's talk about the bricks. The sheer volume of red bricks used in the 19th century is staggering. We are talking about trillions of bricks used to build factories, warehouses, and asylums all over the world. Official history says these were made by hand, fired in local kilns, and transported by horse and cart. Do the math. A single factory requires millions of bricks. A horse cart can carry maybe 500 bricks, moving at 3 miles per hour. To build a city like Chicago in the time frame they claim, the streets would have been deadlocked with millions of horses, 24 hours a day, for 50 years. There is no record of this logistical nightmare. And look at the quality. These bricks are harder than modern concrete. They have survived fires, floods, and earthquakes. Who made them? Where are the massive kilns required to fire them? There are no photos of the construction. The buildings were already there. We just moved in and painted our names on the doors. The smoking gun of this deception is the Crystal Palace of 1851. We are told this structure was built to host the Great Exhibition. It was made of 300,000 panes of hand-blown glass and thousands of tons of modular iron. They say it was built in just 9 months. 9 months. Today, with modern cranes, computers, and hydraulics, we could not build it in 9 years. The glass panes were perfectly uniform. The iron framework was precise to the millimeter. How did men in top hats achieve this level of precision manufacturing in 1851? And then, the most suspicious part, after the exhibition, they dismantled it. Eventually, it burned down. Why destroy the greatest architectural achievement of the age? Because it proved that the technology of the Victorian era was far superior to what we have today. It wasn't a temporary tent. It was a greenhouse for a civilization of giants, displayed one last time before destroying the evidence forever. One of the darkest chapters is child labor. We are told greedy factory owners used children because they were cheap. But look at the photos of the spinning mules and textile looms. Look at the controls. Look at the tight spaces under the machines. These machines were not designed for adult humans. The spaces were too tight. The controls were too low or required small hands to manipulate delicate threads. Was it really about money? Or was it about ergonomics? Perhaps the machines were designed for a specific purpose that required smaller operators. Or, were the children from the Orphan Trains the only population available large enough to staff these massive complexes? The Orphan Trains and the Industrial Revolution happened at the exact same time. Millions of parentless children. Millions of empty factory jobs. It wasn't just exploitation. It was a coordinated effort to pair the new, imported population with the old infrastructure found in the empty cities. The industrial footprint is also on the coastlines. The star forts. We discussed them as energy grids, but look at them as industry. Many are located next to massive water sources. They have complex canal systems, sluice gates, and underground chambers. Official history calls them defensive moats. But an engineer looks at them and sees cooling ponds and hydropressure systems. These star forts were likely the refineries of the old world. They processed gas, water, or etheric energy. When the new population took over, they didn't know how to run the refinery. So they put cannons on the walls and called it a fort. It is like a primitive tribe finding a nuclear power plant and using the control room as a cave. We occupied the industrial zones of the Titans and repurposed them for war, completely misunderstanding their function. The Industrial Revolution is synonymous with smoke. Black, choking smoke. We burned coal to boil water to make steam. It is a primitive, dirty way to make energy. But look at the chimneys of the 1800s. Some of them are beautiful. Ornate brick stacks, built like obelisks. Many of them don't even connect to furnaces. Is it possible that what we call chimneys were originally something else? In the old world tech, vertical columns were used to ground atmospheric charge. When the robber barons took over, they converted these clean energy towers into exhaust pipes. They literally filled the clean machines with dirty coal. The smoke that covered London and Pittsburgh wasn't a sign of progress. It was the pollution caused by using the wrong fuel in the right engine. We choked the planet because we didn't know how to run the machine properly. Search for photos of giant lathes 1900s or giant gears 19th century. You will see photos of men standing next to gears that are 50 feet tall. You will see lathes capable of machining columns the size of redwoods. Who built the machine that builds the machine? If your biggest tool is a hammer, you can't build a 50-foot precision gear. You need a tool bigger than the gear. These photos are the evidence of the Titans. We see tiny men in bowler hats standing proudly next to engineering miracles they could arguably barely operate, let alone construct. They were the salvage crew. They found the machine shop of the gods, turned on the power, and posed for the photo. And then, usually, they melted it down for scrap metal during the World Wars. Evidence destroyed. We go back to the World Fairs because they are the key to the destruction. Chicago 1893. St. Louis 1904. Buffalo 1901. All of them featured massive, Greco-Roman buildings packed with industrial wonders. And all of them ended the same way. Demolition. Or fire. Why? Because the inventory was complete. The controllers had identified which technologies they could monetize, like oil, and which ones were too dangerous to their control, like free energy. The World Fairs were a sorting facility. Keep the trains. Keep the coal. Burn the rest. The White City of Chicago wasn't built of plaster. It was marble. And they smashed it to dust because it revealed too much about the past. It was a ritualistic cleansing of history. To run these stolen factories, they needed a new kind of human. They didn't need independent farmers or thinkers. They needed workers. Punctual. Obedient. Repetitive. So, in the exact same years as the Industrial Revolution, the Prussian education system was introduced to the West. Bells to signal class changes, like factory shifts. Rows of desks, like assembly lines. Don't speak unless spoken to. Memorize. Repeat. The school system was not designed to enlighten you. It was designed to make you compatible with the machine. It was a software update for humanity. They took the children of the orphan trains, put them in these schools, and taught them a fake history. They taught them that their ancestors were cavemen, and that the Industrial Revolution was the peak of civilization. They erased the memory of the old world. We must address the soil itself. Walk around any major 19th century city. London, Moscow, Chicago. Look at the buildings. Why are the windows halfway buried in the ground? Historians call them basement windows for light. But go inside. They aren't basements. They are full ground floors that were buried by a massive influx of soil. There are doors under the sidewalk. There are storefronts facing solid earth. This is the evidence of the mud flood. A cataclysmic event that buried the lower levels of the world civilization shortly before the Industrial Revolution began. We didn't build these cities. We dug them out. The Industrial Revolution was actually a massive excavation project. We cleared the streets, fixed the roofs, and claimed the city as our own. We are living on the second floor of a buried world. Unless they weren't built for that. The architecture suggests these were originally healing centers. The geometry, the location, the airflow, everything was designed to channel energy. They were machines for repairing the human body and mind. When the controllers took over, they didn't know how to use the healing tech. So they turned these centers into prisons for the unwanted. They filled the healing halls with the mentally ill and the orphans who asked too many questions. They turned the cure into a cage. So, looking back at the 1700s and 1800s, the picture becomes clear. There was no magical explosion of genius. There was an excavation. A takeover. A cover-up. The Industrial Revolution was a crime scene. The robber barons were the looters. The educators were the liars. And we are the workforce, trained to maintain the ruins. But the bricks are still there. The steel is still there. The Crystal Palace may be gone, but the truth is hidden in the photos. They want you to believe you are a slightly evolved ape who got lucky with a steam engine. The truth is, you are the survivor of a fallen greatness. Stop looking at history as a ladder we climbed up. Look at it as a mountain we fell from. And maybe, just maybe, we can start climbing back up.
We are just scratching the surface. The official narrative is crumbling, and we will be there to document the collapse. If you want to see what else has been erased from history, join the project. Subscribe to The Truth. The excavation continues.